This a development. Kenneth, Ikenwa, business, political and social policy analyst, joins me on the news. Thank you so much for your time, Kenneth.
Good evening, Dapo. Thanks for having me on.
All right. Now, what do you make of the federal government's transportation support for citizens for this festive season?
All right. More specifically, it's a federal government transportation subsidy coming in at a time where subsidy seems to be a word, a concept that is being eradicated from the Nigerian economy. All right. We must actually commend the government for this wonderful initiative. It no doubt, if proven to be successful at the end of the day, would remove a lot of burdens from a good mass. But how critical that mass of Nigerians actually are is yet to be questioned. Now, interventions like this are important. But the question again is, should the government be intervening in a sector like this, in quotes? What are the network effects of having such an intervention at this point in time? Will this intervention be consistent over time? Most importantly, when interventions like these come to the fore, they are weighed on a scale of necessity and sustainability. Was this intervention necessary? No doubt. Every Nigerian will have been glad to receive 50% slash in transportation fare, either by rail, either by road, or by air. But as we can see, it seems only a select few companies and a select few destinations are benefiting from the 50% slash. Now, is this intervention sustainable? No. So when we have to vote between necessity and sustainability, sustainability carries the vote of the day. So the intervention should be realigned. And when you look at the network effects that will emanate from this kind of intervention, it shows that the network externalities will actually be negative. It would have been better if we had subsidies in the areas of agriculture. I think a live chicken now is going for about 6,000 naira or 6,005. So if the government had subsidized some of the big agric poultry, livestock organizations or companies in Nigeria, and asked them to sell livestock at a slash price of 50%, I'm sure all Nigerians would have been much more happy. So we have to look at the network effects of interventions when we come up with such policies.
All right, because we're pressed for time, right? Now, I mean, I believe you saw a report, of course, feelers we are getting concerning it's mixed in terms of the implementation, both from the transporters and also the passengers. Now, let's talk about the implementation itself. What do you have to say concerning the implementation, particularly how it affects people at this time? Is this just another, will I call it, quote and unquote, another way to just, maybe enrich a few people? Or is the government, in terms of transparency, sincere enough in its implementation?
Well, Dapo, you're being telepathic because you have taken the words out of my mind. Now, when policies like this come to play, they actually border on governance mechanisms and the interplay of these mechanisms. And what are the three major mechanisms that we need to use in analyzing the interventions of this kind of nature? Number one is transparency. Now, we know that there's a great degree of trust deficit and integrity deficit in the Nigerian society today. Now, if you assign a group of transporters and maybe assign me, for instance, knowing very well that so many Nigerians need money, and how do you actually make me account for 500 people that have benefited from a subsidy if actually only 400 or 300 people did actually benefit? So the issues of transparency, full disclosure, and accountability actually come into play here. In my view, one of the major hiccups to the successful implementation of this intervention is data. Does the government have the data to actually drive this policy intervention? this policy implementation?
I mean,
The
Kenneth,
answer is going forward, things may get better.
Yes, hopefully. And of course, I believe that if we had more time, we would, of course, love to have extended this conversation. But thank you so much for being a part of the news tonight.
Thank you for having me on, and thank you for the government for doing at least this little. We are grateful.
All right.